Hey, thank you for tuning into this video. It is your girl, Alicia, coming to you with another um inspirational. Hopefully this is inspiring to you, or it point out something that allows you to become wise and wiser. I'm gonna say that, or have a better understanding and clarity behind a person who has a borderline personality disorder. So today we are going to talk about 9 signs to know when you or someone you know are dealing with a borderline personality disorder, better known as BPD. Okay. Sometimes mental illness can be um, overwhelming. A lot of people don't understand mental illness, and some do understand mental illness. But behind mental illness, it is a serious illness that cannot be taken for granted. When people suffer from mental illness, whether it's depression, whether it's borderline personality disorder, mood disorder, whatever it may be, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, narcissistic disorder, whatever it is, there is a lot of things that take place behind the person who has this disorder. And so what we cannot do is take it for granted. And we oftentimes have to educate ourselves, so preferably this is an educational video for somebody and can help you be able to not only point out other people who may be suffering from this disorder, but also if you feel that you are suffering from this disorder, that you'll go get help, that you will find ways to help yourself, or like I said, go get help. A person who has a borderline personality disorder, they show signs of instability. Not only do they show signs of instability, right? But they show marked impulsivity. So those signs of instability is usually shown in interpersonal relationships. They're usually shown within themselves. Their self-image is sometimes sabotaged by themselves. Sometimes they don't see who they are. Their affects are affected by this, meaning that their emotions can be up and down. It's almost like it's a roller coaster, right? Their emotions are just scattered all over the place. And it seems like every relationship that they end up in, it is unstable, right? And as we know that when you are unstable, you cannot focus on one thing, right? And the thing about a person who has a borderline personality disorder, they're never the same. It seems like one moment they'll be up, the next minute they'll be down. It's like their emotions is just like how can I say this? Their emotions is, like I said, scattered. It's like one minute they may be happy, right? And then within the next second, they're sad, they're angry, and they don't even understand why, right? So a person who has a borderline personality disorder, they often question their own self-image, right? They don't know what direction to go in. Their goals, they don't really have goals. And even if they do have goals, they can't focus on their goals because, again, their mind is all over the place. They are always changing their mind about everything. It's like a light switch. You can cut it on and cut it off. It's on and off, right? And it's like a person who has a borderline personality disorder, they're always indecisive about everything to the point to where it leaves them, not only them confused, but it leaves the person whom they may be surrounded around or dealing with confused. And they're always unclear about things. It's almost like they just, how can I say? Well, I said it already. Their mind is just scattered all over the place. what we need to understand is that a borderline personality disorder causes pain on a person who may be dealing with that, or maybe they're in a relationship, or you're in a relationship and you're dealing with this disorder, and it's hard for you to focus or be in one relationship, because a person who has a personality disorder, they cannot stay in relationships for long, and we'll delve deeper into these things. I need for you to understand that behind mental illness comes in so many forms, right? It happens in so many ways. Sometimes we don't understand why. Sometimes we do understand how or why we ended up with this disorder or a disorder. With mental illness can be hereditary. It can also be the fact that you have experienced trauma in your life and it caused you to have to deal with things, and maybe you did not receive help along the way, and it ended up growing or fostering into something bigger. And another way that we can experience experience a disorder is sometimes it's just, I'm not going to say just, but sometimes it's a chemical imbalance. We don't understand why or how we ended up with this disorder or how a person ended up with the disorder. So, starting with number one, the way to point out if a person has BPD, bipolar, I'm sorry, not bipolar, I'm sorry, borderline personality disorder is number one, they fear abandonment. They fear abandonment. Say they're in a relationship, if or you're in a relationship. Sometimes you'll find these people clingy. Not only are they clingy, but it seems like that person is so obsessed with the person that they are in a relationship with. And what I mean by this is that when they're in a relationship, let's just say a person is saying, or the person that they are in a relationship with, and maybe this is you, but I'm going to speak in terms of as if it's someone so that I don't have to keep saying if it's you. So if it's you, then I hope that these 9 signs will help you identify that you may be dealing with a borderline personality disorder. And so back to what I was saying, a person who may be in a relationship, let's just say that they're in a relationship. While they're in a relationship and the person that they are with says, you know what, I'm about to run to the store. I'll be back in an hour. What happens is they become so terrified of being left alone or abandoned. They don't want that person out of their sight. Or maybe a person have got into an argument with their significant other, and that significant other storms out and walks away and leave for a short period of time. In a person's mind who has borderline personality disorder, they would begin to think that that person is walking away from them. So what will happen is their emotions start to go up and down. They start to feel sad. They start to feel angry. They start to feel a sense of abandonment. They start to feel alone, even though the person is coming back, right? But they have they're dealing with an abandonment issue. Maybe it is someone who have been or experienced trauma in their life. And when they have experienced trauma in their life, what happens is they end up, if they're in a relationship and their significant other and them get into an argument or a disagreement, and that, like I said, that significant other end up leaving, they start to feel abandoned, or they fear being left alone, or they fear that, oh, we just had an argument, this person is going to leave me. And so what happens is that's how they become clingy. So what you may find is this person is blowing up your phone, or they're chasing up behind you, or they're trying to get you to not leave. They're blocking the door. They're like, wait a minute, don't go. They're begging and pleading and crying and shouting and screaming, please don't leave. This is a person who may have borderline personality disorder. Um, Another example of this would be being in a relationship and having a bad breakup. And they not only did they experience the fact that the person, or they made the choice and the decision to say, you know what, I no longer want to be in this relationship. And what you will find is that the person whom they ended up being in a relationship with, now every person that they end up in a relationship with, they're going to have some form of fear of being abandoned or being alone. Number two, they have a pattern of having unstable relationships. What do I mean by this? They are often involved in short lived relationships. Remember, I talked about that their minds is always changing, and how they are often indecisive about things. In every relationship that they end up in, it is often unstable. This is part of that reason that they end up in so many relationships, and the relationships that they have are unstable, because in the relationship, sometimes some people don't understand mental illness, and the person that has the mental illness may not have been diagnosed with this disorder. And so what happens is they deem themselves to be okay. They're not looking at the fact that, hey, something is going on, because they can't identify it themselves. So when they're in a relationship with somebody, and the person whom they are in a relationship with is able to identify these signs, and they're telling that person, to them is going in one ear and coming out the other 9 times out of 10, because again, they have not even recognized that there is a problem. So this is why the relationships end up short-lived. That's part of the reason why. And another reason why a relationship can be shortly lived with a person with borderline personality disorder is because, again, their mind is all over the place. They may be happy for a little while. It's like the emotions that they have is short-lived. So maybe they're in a relationship with somebody, and that person, it's new to them. So newness is often a good thing for them, because hey, their emotions is running high now. But then when you be in the relationship for so long and things don't seem to go the way that they think it should, what happens is sometimes they would just walk away from that relationship. And as it sound, as crazy as it sound, a person who have borderline personality disorder, they do fear being left alone and abandoned, but sometimes they are the ones who leave people alone and leave them feeling abandoned, because they cannot stay in something for too long. They often fall in love easily. You ever go on a relationship, go on a date with somebody that you have met? Maybe you have gone out on a relationship with them for maybe two times, right? You may find that that person is like, man, you the ideal person that I'm looking for. Like, man, you just make me so whole and complete. And next thing you know, they telling you that they love you. Listen, I believe in love at first sight, But when the person can tell you so quickly that they love you, that you're complete, that you're making them feel whole, those are red flags. Those are some things that you may need to be aware of. You may not want to move so fast in that relationship, because what may happen is down the line, you may be in that relationship for 2, 3 months, and then the next thing you know, they having mood swings out of this world, and you like, wait a minute. I thought that I was the perfect person for you. I thought that I complete you. And what will happen with those mood swings is like the relationship often goes from perfect to instantly. And listen to me when I say this. When I say instantly, I'm talking about instantly, from perfect to horrible. And because their relationships are unstable, their mind is not stable, right? Their relationships is not stable, and when their mind is not stable, guess what? They're going to always crash with somebody. Let's say this: you're in a friendship with the person, right? This goes for people who you have friend and who you are friends with. You may feel like, man, this is a man, this person is a good friend. Like, you just met them. Some people, listen, one thing that I discovered is that a lot of people, or some people, they often want relationships, right? They want relationships so bad because, for one, as human, we don't like to be alone. And sometimes us who don't like to be alone, even those who do not have a borderline personality disorder, a person who don't have a mental illness, sometimes we just don't like being alone, right? And many times what you will find is that a person who have been alone for so long, when a person come along and they seem like they are the ideal man or woman, sometimes you start to feel a certain way for that person, right? It ends up happening. The next thing you know, bam, here goes something, right? But going back to what I was saying with the friendships, oftentimes we want friendships. We want people around us. We supposed to be people who are talkative, or associating with other people, getting to know other people. But sometimes when we get to know people, right, you may find a friend that may be like, man, you are the best friend ever, and you don't even really know them like that. But then you like, man, this is a real cool person. And then the next thing you know, they got an attitude out of this world, and you can't even understand it. You can't comprehend what's happening, and then the friendship is gone. These are signs that we need to look for. Number 3, they have identity disturbances. What I mean by this is that they have unclear and unstable self-images of themselves, or a sense of themselves, right? So they're unclear of who they are. One minute they may feel good about themselves. They may be like, oh my God, I'm so pretty. Or, man, dude, as a man would do with his hair, man, I'm hot. Or I'm the stuff, whatever guys say, right? And then the next thing you know, they hate themselves. It's almost like there's no balance. So they're hating themselves when they look in the mirror. Oh my, I'm so ugly. Man, look at this spot on my face. They see everything negatively, right? They don't have a clear idea about who they are or what they want out of life. Again, this goes back to what I was talking about. They may have goals, but they can't work those goals. Okay. They often desire jobs, right? They get in one job and they may be there for a month. I would even give it a year. And then the next thing you know, 6 months to a year, sometimes sooner than that, they like, wait a minute, I gotta go. I don't like this job no more. They find everything wrong with other people, but they do not find nothing wrong with themselves. You have to understand, you may be dealing with a person with the borderline personality disorder. They're in and out of friendships and relationships. They're confused. You find people who are confused about their religion. One moment they want to be a Christian, the next minute they want to be an atheist, the next minute you may find that they want to be a Pentecostal, the next minute you may find them wanting to be a Muslim. It's like there's no balance. They can't create a balance, right? And it's like they're always changing their values and their goals. Again, they may have a list of goals, they may have values, but they suddenly change within an instant. They often become confused in their sexual identity. This becomes another issue. One minute they may want to be a lesbian. The next minute they may want to be bisexual. The next minute they may want to be trisexual, whatever you want to call that. They may not understand that, hey, I'm a woman, I'm a man, but I want women, I want men. They may not understand what it is that they like. Why? Why is this? Because they are unstable. They cannot create that balance in their life. They just cannot create a balance in their life. Number 4, they display at least 2 of these areas I'm going to mention that are potentially self-damaging to them. And what I mean by self-damaging is not only are they unstable, but a lot of times what you will find is that they start to dip and dazzle in substance use. They start to abuse it, right? They don't know how to stop it. You'll find a person whom you may be either married to, you may be in a friendship with, you may even be in a relationship with. They are abusing substances. I don't care what it is. It can be alcohol, it can be drugs, it can be whatever it is that's going to help them to ease their pain or clear their mind, as some people would say. You'll find them abusing these things because, again, they're unstable. They're ever so changing. You may find them always getting tickets, reckless driving. Maybe they have hit something and then next thing you know, they skeeting off. They like, wait a minute, let me go. Back up. And they go. Maybe they are a person who, not maybe, because this is signs that they display. They spend even when they can't afford it. Listen, you may be like, man, why is this person always spending my money or our money? Or why am I always spending? I know I can't afford it. But hey, even if they can't afford it, they're going to spend. They are going to spend. Another thing that they do, they engage in risky sex. Listen, they don't care who they sleep with. All they want to do is fulfill their needs and their desires. Again, they like newness. So a person who has a borderline personality disorder, when things are shifting and changing for them and they're going up, they're going down, and it's like that roller coaster, when they're finding that little one spark that throws them or catches them, they're going to engage in it. Another sign is that they binge eat. You find them just eating everything. It's there. Oh, I feel a crave. I need to eat. I need to eat. The reason why they involve themselves in these behaviors is because it makes them feel good for the moment. Hear me again. The reason why they are involved in these behaviors is because it makes them feel good for the moment. I need you to understand that a person who suffers from borderline personality disorder, everything that they do, everything that they involve themselves in, it is short-lived. Hear me out. If a person is constantly telling you, hey, I got a new job, and they happy about it, and then the next thing you know, they unhappy and they finding something wrong with everybody or everything, you may need to be alert. If a person is in a relationship and they're happy for the moment. Hey, I just went on a date, or I'm in this relationship, or maybe, just maybe, you're married to someone. And yeah, you're married to them, but guess what? They're stepping out on their relationship constantly. It's almost like they are a serial cheater. They're always looking for newness. They're always looking for something that will fulfill their desires, which are often short lived. Number 5, you see them suffering from recurrent suicidal behaviors. It's 1 minute I want to live. The next minute I don't want to live. They tend to suffer from suicidal behaviors. They often have suicidal ideation. They can see themselves being dead. They can want to like no longer live. They would either make suicide gestures. What am I saying? They would make suicide gestures and make threats of committing suicide, especially when they're angry. When they become so angry, you'll often hear them saying stuff like, I don't want to live. Sometimes they would even attempt to commit suicide. These are red flags that we all should be looking at. What is going on? There is an imbalance somewhere. Listen. When people with borderline personality disorders and they commit or make suicide gestures, it can be something so much of them just joking around with you, and they're taking a rope and putting it around their neck, or taking a knife and they're doing like this, and maybe they just joke. These are things that you need to pay attention to. And maybe they're joking about these things, right? But maybe it's not like often. It's just every now and then. And maybe they are just joking because they may have a joking personality. But hey, those people who constantly do these things, listen, you need to be aware. Red flags need to go up. Pay close attention. They will often self-mutilate by either cutting themselves or burning themselves, okay? So you find a lot of people, especially teenagers, who often cut themselves, and you'll be like, wait a minute, what happened? And they say, I cut myself. These are signs that needs to be paid attention to. And hey, since I said kids or teenagers or whatever, you need to pay attention to these signs. Understand that this may be your child, or maybe it's a child that you are working with, you're living with, or Pay attention to these signs. Number 6, they have emotional mood swings. I'm talking about they are extremely emotional. They have intense mood swings out of this world. And what you'll find is that when they have these intense mood swings, they become extremely irritable. They don't want to be around nobody. Everything irritates them. I'm talking about if they hear a pin drop, they get angry. They're just irritated. If somebody make the slightest noise, they are so irritated. They have extreme anxiety. And when I say extreme anxiety, because many of us, we can have anxiety, right? And it may come, it may go, or maybe we just heard a noise, a booming sound just out of the blue, and we ended up having anxiety. Or maybe you got into an argument with your significant other or a friend or somebody on the street, and you were and you started to experience anxiety. That's not the anxiety that I'm talking about. The extreme anxiety that I'm talking about, it lasts for hours and only rarely more than a few days. So you know how a person may have anxiety. Hey, wait a minute, I got anxiety. I'm having anxiety, or I'm about to take this test. I got anxiety. That's a different story. A person may have anxiety that will last for hours, and it's rarely more than a few days, meaning that they are consistent each day. They're having anxiety. It's not just one day, it's not 2 days, it's more than a few days, 3 days or more. Number 7, chronic feelings of emptiness. They will have this. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. They don't want to feel lonely. They don't want to feel neglected. They don't want to feel abandoned. So they have feelings of emptiness, right? When I say emptiness, meaning that they always talk about feeling empty. You hear a person say, man, I don't even know what direction I should go in. Like, man, I don't know. Like, I just feel so self-worthy or unworthy. Like, I'm just worthless to everybody. Like, or you may hear them saying, I'm not important. I'm not important to nobody. So they are show signs of, well, not show signs, but they would say that they're unimportant. They would say things like, I'm worthless, I'm useless here on earth, or I don't even know why I'm here. And they would often say, you know what, I feel like I'm empty, especially when they hear other people say, man, I just feel like I know what direction I need to go in. On the other hand, they'll be like, you know what? I feel empty. It's almost like they have a huge void in their life. They can't feel that void. They don't know. They feel like ain't nobody there for them, even though they may have everybody in the world. They may have a strong support system, but to them, they don't have anyone. Why is this? Why? The reason why this is because, remember, we talked about the suicide ideation. Remember, we talked about suicide. They often become addicted to substances or things because they're trying to fill that void. The reason why they engage in destructive behaviors is because, again, they're trying to fill that void. That void needs to be filled every time. That's why they end up in relationships, so many friendships. They can never stay on jobs. It's because, again, they're trying to fill that void. Number 8, what you will find is that they have intense anger. What do I mean? They often lose their tempers. You ever get on the road and you're driving and someone is driving too close to you, or maybe they cut you off and you become angry and filled with anxiety and you honking your horn, and then you got road rage that kicks in. This is totally different, okay? When a person who have borderline personality disorder, listen, they become uncontrollable. What do I mean? If a person cut them off in their while they're driving or something, they may be one that be like, you know what, I'm jumping out this car, go straight to the window of that person, or try to snatch that person. Intense anger. They are constantly filled with anger. They often want to fight or get into physical fights with other people. You ever be with some friends and, it's a group of y'all, maybe 3 or 4 y'all, and when you're together, one person may look at them or bump them accidentally, and the person be like, I'm so sorry. They become filled with anger. It's almost like they ready to fight. They ready to just go for it. Why? Because they lack self-control. They will throw things. You ever find a person, if you're in a relationship with somebody, or maybe you ain't in a relationship with nobody, and they become angry. Y'all done just had a spat and y'all are going back and forth or whatever the case may be. They become so angry to the fact that they start yelling, they start screaming at you. Not only will they yell and scream, but they'll start throwing things. They'll start punching holes in walls. I'm telling you, they are filled with intense anger. They become completely consumed by rage. And these people, we really need to pay close attention to, because, again, these are those red flags. And number 9, stress-related paranoid ideation kicks in. What do I mean by this? They struggle with paranoia. They think everybody is out to get them. They think somebody watching them. It's always something. They think their phone's being tapped, or like somebody trying to set them up. Maybe you got into an argument with your significant other or a friend or whatever the case may be, and they end up thinking that, oh, they're out to get me, they're gonna hurt me, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. And it's just extreme paranoia. Okay, they think everyone is just gonna hurt them. And so, especially, listen, especially when they're under stress, they tend to lose touch with reality. And what I mean by this, losing touch with reality, this is called dissociation. Again, it's dissociation. This means that they are feeling spaced out. It feels like they are in a fog. Sometimes they're outside of their own body. It's just like, wait a minute, what happened? They lose touch with themselves. Okay. And this often happens, like I said, when they are under extreme stress. Extreme stress. And so it's not always easy. So talking about those 9 steps, we must understand that it's not always easy to deal with someone who suffers from a borderline personality disorder. Maybe you are the one who's suffering. Maybe you're not the one who's suffering. Maybe you know someone who's suffering. Maybe you're in a relationship with the person who is suffering. And I get it. It can be extremely stressful to deal with or even to accept. I need you to know that if this is you, or if you know someone, a loved one, a family member, anybody, there is hope. There is hope. Listen, when people have mental illnesses, a lot of times what happens is they lose themselves along the way. They feel like nobody understands. They feel lonely. They feel as if, they can't be in relationships. And we already know that a person with a borderline personality disorder, they can't be in anything for too long. And so this is why it is imperative for a person to understand mental illness, because sometimes it can be to the point to where we don't understand, and we may say, I want to be there for that person, and you may be standing by that person's side, and you may even commit to being by their side and not leaving them, but then something may trigger you to be like, that's it, I'm done, they need to suffer, or whatever the case may be. People like this need help. Seriously. You cannot change the person. You cannot change who they are. They have to be willing to change themselves, and they have to be willing to work on themselves. So I want to say this. The first step is recognizing the emotional issues that you are having, or that they are having. They have to be able to recognize this. This is the number one key to success in anything, being able to recognize it, right? Even if you having a drug addiction or alcoholic addiction or whatever, a sex addiction, whatever it is, you got to be able to recognize that something is wrong, that there is an issue. And once you are able to recognize and point out what your issues is, number 2, you got to be willing to accept those issues. Because what happens is when we start to recognize and accept what is happening to us or to them or to you, with acceptance comes the possibility to change. So remember this. The only way to change any behavior, you have to, number 1, be able to recognize it. Number 2, you have to accept it. You have to accept that there is an issue. So there are 4 steps that I'm going to give you if you are suffering with borderline personality disorder, or you know someone who is suffering. Number 1, I said it, recognize. Number 2, accept your emotions. See, when we start to accept that there is a problem, that I'm not the best, and I keep having these emotions that keep going up and down, then we will become better at who we are. Number 3, work on your interpersonal skills. When you're feeling stressful, when a person is feeling stressful, don't assume. Don't just assume that, hey, this person gonna walk away from me or they just gonna leave me. No, don't jump to conclusions. What you have to do is consider the possibilities of others. Don't be quick to project negative feelings or emotions on other people. Oftentimes, when people who suffer from borderline personality disorder, they will do this. And if this is you, again, you cannot be so quick to project your negative feelings or emotions on others. Number 4, get help if you need it. I know it's not always easy to get help when we need it, but understand that when you go and seek help, help is on the way. Help is there. I'm talking about contact the counselor if you have to. Contact your immediate care doctor if you have to. If you don't have one, then find an immediate care doctor or find a counselor. And if your immediate care doctor, if you have an immediate care doctor and you don't have a counselor, you can explain to them what is happening. You can tell them, hey, I feel like I'm suffering, I'm going through things, and you give them your symptoms. 9 times out of 10, they can give you a referment. They will refer you to somebody. So, hey, I want to say this. I hope this video was helpful to somebody in helping you to be able to recognize and understand what borderline personality disorder is, be able to see the 9 signs and know that this may be me. So if a person is experiencing these signs and you feel like, hey, this is, or if it's you, get the help that you need. I hope this video was encouraging to you and it helped you and educated you on what borderline personality disorder is. Because again, like I said earlier, many people do not understand the seriousness behind mental illness. There is mental illness that is just everywhere, and people don't look like they have problems. Everybody don't look like they feel or what they have been diagnosed with. Sometimes we don't understand it. Sometimes we see them and hey, it just look normal, but then when it's not until you start to interact with them that you really start to see who they are. So I want to tell you and encourage you, don't go by what you see, because looks is not everything. A person who may have a borderline personality disorder often do not look how they are. And any mental illness does not have a look to it. Okay, sometimes you can tell. Sometimes when people act a certain way, you may be deemed them as weird. You may be able to see right off the bat that somebody has a mental illness. But I want to encourage you, if you are dealing with this, please get help. If you know someone who may be dealing with it, please, if you can, get them the help that they need, or try to talk them into getting help so that they can get the right help that can help them get on the right track. I hope this video was informative. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this video. Somebody may need to hear this. God bless you. God bless you. I love you with the love of Jesus Christ. Bye for now.